Good morning.
Morning, Ray.
That's Gene.
Jean.
Okay, yeah.
That was the only one we got, right?
The only one I got. I don't. They were supposed to turn over.
Or me. All right.
I think I'm joined in.
Okay, thanks, Neil.
For those just getting in on live, we apologize. Zoom is having some audio issues, so we had to find an alternative method to get our audio in. So just bear with us while we're trying to figure this out, please.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Yeah, we should be coming up live right now, Dean.
Right.
Okay.
They were so ahead of their times.
Neil, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, Gene, you're good?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'll let you know if I can.
Oh, okay. Ray, I see you're muted, but you can probably hear us. I can't hear you.
Nothing heard, Ray.
Unmute. Or, we can't hear you.
Try it one more time. Test 1, 2, 3.
I hear you, Ray.
Now you're there.
Okay.
All right.
Never mind.
I think we all know that. I'm not capable of that.
All right, we're a little bit behind schedule here this morning. We just now are going to start the meeting at 9:20. Okay, anything, first of all, does anybody have any changes to the agenda before we move on?
I think there needs to
Property-
be added
business-
business property tax credit. That was not on the agenda.
Yeah, it's in our materials, not the agenda.
The business property tax.
Oh, yeah, so where we have we have homestead, military, disabled vet, homestead tax credit applications, we should have business property tax credit applications as well.
All right, Courtney, anything else? Okay. All right.
Then
With
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll
the
second
addition.
that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda with the addition of business property tax, and we'll cover that right after, between 5 and 6. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, motion carries. Okay, we have board minutes from last Wednesday. Should have been the, the first.
the minutes of Wednesday, July 1st, I'll move to approve them as presented.
Any recommendations there, Carl, so we can hear him better? Okay, Gene, I assume you made a motion to approve the minutes for July 1st.
Oh, Neil.
No, that was
Neil?
Dean. Neil. And
Okay.
I'll second.
Again,
All right,
We have a second by Jean.
second by Gene, gotcha.
Glad I can recognize their voices.
I wasn't looking up, so. We'll call for the, vote on the minutes for July 1st for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries. Okay, we're gonna jump into the radio system project. Do you want to handle these one at a time? Do you want to get a whole presentation on the whole works? Go for one approval? How shall you want to accomplish this?
I would say have item G, which would be the project update, be first.
Okay, makes sense? All right, Ray? We'll
All
let
right,
you start
good
it
morning,
off.
everyone. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Gotcha, Ray.
All right. Project update, I understand the request to do that first. Well, we, as a part of the project update, we've obviously got quite a shopping list of things to talk about here this morning, including the leases, the purchase of a shelter for the Coon Rapids site, proposal for the building upgrade at Lanesboro site, and the DOT memorandum of agreement for the Carroll site, and the user training proposal from On Target Training. And obviously, we'll cover all those in detail. As far as a project update, otherwise, we've been investing a lot of time in tower site planning, and in a nutshell, I guess, we've got quite a bit of work to do, working with Motorola on what they call microwave path studies. As I think most of you probably realize, these tower sites will be linked together by microwave radio, and that's done by a separate vendor with Motorola, and those folks have been out inspecting the sites and looking at what they call the line of sight paths, make sure there's no grain elevators in the way or any of that kind of stuff. And then also the new Motorola radio dispatch consoles are installed in Jason's office, and they are temporarily connected into the ISIX radio core through the ICN link that every county has. So that's a big step in getting those up and running, and once they're connected, then the Motorola technicians can start configuring them and programming them, and I think much of that work is done. Is that correct, Jason?
Yeah, so just a point of clarification, they're not installed in the comm center yet. They're in a storage area adjacent to the comm center, set up and prepared for training. The configuration is pretty much done. We have a few minor tweaks that I need to do just to make sure that when the console comes up, the volume levels are coming up at the correct point where we want them for the default settings, and just little stuff like that. And they'll be in the storage area until training is completed with the dispatchers, and then over the consoles right after training is complete.
Correct. Good point, Jason. And the space that they're in, or the room that they're in, is where we'll be doing the training for the dispatchers in the not-too-distant future. So, any questions on any of those details? Okay, thank you. We'll jump into the first item, is the tower and ground space license agreement, the lease basically, for the use of the Manning Tower. And we sent a copy of that document to everyone, and we had updated it with all the correct information for the county's use of the site, the technical details and so forth. And we are, let's see here. It's 24 pages, so there's a lot of information in there. We've looked through it, and covers a lot of ground. Generally speaking, I certainly don't see anything in there that I see as being an issue, and frankly, the Manning folks have stated that this is their lease that they use, and we pretty much need to accept it with the correct information in there and so forth. So I guess I'll open that one up for discussion and questions.
That's what I was gonna say, Ray. As I read it, it looked like a pretty standard lease. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary there. Did anybody else see anything that jumped out and glared to them? But I've seen these before, and it looks pretty standard to me.
Yeah, nothing really popped out to me, except that my question would be is, so this is their lease, and we made changes to their lease. Did they agree to those changes?
Yes, a good question. They had directed us to update the technical aspects of this document, and that's what we did.
Okay, so do you want to vote on these one at a time, board, or do you want to let Ray continue? Like I say, I don't care. We're going to pick them off one at a time as we go through them. That's fine, too.
I think it should be voted on separately.
I'll
they
make
probably
I'll make a motion that we approve the Manning lease agreement and authorize the chair to sign it.
I'll
I
second
would
that
second.
motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the tower lease agreement between Carroll County and Manning Municipal Utilities, or the city of Manning, I should say. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed. All right, motion carried. Okay, go on to the next one.
Thank you.
Ray.
All right, thank you very much. Next one is a similar situation. It's a lease agreement for use of the FTC Tower in Coon Rapids. Another rather lengthy lease. We have gone through, as directed by the tower owner, and added all the appropriate technical information and so forth. Again, lots of detail, but you know, these folks are typically dealing with cellular carriers, not counties. So, you know, there's some things in there that might not need to be in there, but it is their standard lease, and we'll just have to accept it, I guess. So, and I'll open that one up for discussion as well.
Now, that lease agreement is for just the equipment inside of their building, and it has nothing to do with the space on the ground. That's separate, correct?
No, this is for, it includes space on the ground for Carroll County to place a radio shelter, which is the next item we're going to talk about here. So this is
Okay.
Space on the tower and space on the ground.
Very good.
So the monthly lease fee is what it is. Is that negotiable at all, Ray? I mean, can we get that down since it's a government and a public service?
Good question, and in fact, we've already done that, believe it or not. The price at what point was several $100s more than it is now. So they claim to be giving the county a deal, and frankly, while it's a little bit more than we had hoped for, it is less than prices we are seeing on other sites. So they did reduce it somewhat based on, it was a combination of technical changes. We moved some antennas around to minimize the impact on the space on their tower, and in conjunction with that, they gave us a little bit of a break. So at this point, I have to say it is what it is. I'll also point out.
It sounds high, but it sounds high, but I guess it's acceptable since we don't have to build a tower ourselves, which would be more.
Correct, and that was going to be my closing point here. It is still significantly less than the cost of building your own tower and obtaining land and so forth.
Yeah, we were looking down the barrel of $1 million check there.
The only way building a tower would be better is if we would be in the business of renting that out, really aren't in that business.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to approve that license agreement with FTC Tower Company. I would make the motion that we approve that license agreement, or that lease agreement, should say.
I will also second the lease agreement from STC Tower Company LLC.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll call for the vote on that lease. All those in favor of signing, say aye.
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 And opposed. Motion carries. Okay, let's go on to the Coon Rapids Tower site, the shelter part of it.
All right, thank you. We do need to provide a shelter for the radio equipment at the Coon Rapids site, and we've identified a size of 10 foot by 12 foot as being large enough but not too big, because the lease cost is directly associated with the amount of space taken up on the ground. And the plan here is actually to pour a concrete pad approximately 12 by 25. The shelter would fit on it, and then an outdoor generator would also be mounted on that concrete pad next to the shelter. So a new shelter would cost about $50,000. And fortunately, there's quite a few companies with used shelters out there available. And however, most of them are larger than 10 by 12. So we have found a company that has two different used 10 by 12s. One of them is a bit newer. It was built in, I think, either it was a 2005 or 2009. And it is located, I believe, in Iowa somewhere. And this is a company that buys shelters from cellular companies when they're, done with a particular site. The other thing is, for those of you that pay attention to this stuff, a lot of the cell companies are moving to outdoor cabinets instead of putting a shelter in place. So the ballpark price on one of these things is about $18,000 plus transportation costs. And what they do is they load it onto a lowboy semi, and it gets trucked over to the site. And then we also have to rent a crane service to lift the thing off and set it on the concrete, which will be something else that we'll be working on as well. What we'd like to do is get your approval to purchase one of these shelters, and we'll have them hold it for 30 days or they will hold it up to 60 days, but we would like to get it purchased before they disappear, and then we'll get it trucked over when everything else is ready at the site. And in the memo that we sent, there's a picture of one of these things, a typical one. It's not the exact one, but it's typical. And once we get the shelter, we'll need to have an electrician come in and provide power to it, as well as update some of the wiring inside the building to meet our needs. And all of these things, I will say, are in the tower site budget that we prepared for this project a few months back. So I'll open it up for questions.
Just a container, and it's pretty bare bones, of course, is maybe $2,500. What do these shelters have in them that make them worth, that much more?
If I understand the question, is what makes these more expensive?
Yeah, I mean, a regular container, an empty container like you see go by on a train is like $2,500. What do they have? What do these shelters have in it?
This is actually a prefabricated building. They're made of, most of them are concrete. And so they're weatherproof, insulated, bulletproof. And then they've also got two self-contained heating and cooling units mounted on the outside. They've got a full electrical service inside, 200 amp breaker panel, and so on. So it's actually a building. It's not just a container.
Thank you.
Ray, is that anchored to? Go ahead, Dean.
I was just looking at the lease that we just approved, and I don't see anything in there about whose property this is once we put it on their site. Does it remain our property?
You mean the shelter?
Yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. We'll have to verify with them, but yes, the shelter remains your property.
Yeah, I think we want to know that for sure.
Ray, my question is that anchored into the concrete for wind events?
The answer is yes. It would get bolted down to the concrete, but the shelter weighs about 25,000 pounds, so it's probably not going to go anywhere.
Okay. Okay, very good. All right.
The secondary roads have a crane. The secondary roads have a crane that would be large enough to remove that from the trailer bed and place on the pad. I guess that's a question that I would have, as opposed to hiring a crane come in.
We can certainly check, but I think the answer is going to be no. We've been in contact with a crane service. I don't have it in front of me here. I think they're out of the Des Moines area that we used over in Boone County for lifting a shelter and setting it in place.
You might want to contact, if you're going to get bids, you might want to contact Agline in Breda. They have a crane as well. It's a rather large crane.
What's the name of that company again?
Agline.
A.G. Lime, L-I-M-E.
Correct.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Okay, so is this a point for discussion, or are we looking for an approval to purchase this right away and get it locked in, so we don't have to, fight this battle, we lose it?
Correct. We are seeking approval.
I will make a motion to approve the purchase of the, shelter, the used shelter.
Second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is the memorandum with the DOT.
No, I think we skipped one.
Did we?
Lanesboro Tower Site.
Oh, Lanesboro Taro site. You're right. Getting hopeful.
Okay, thank you. The Lanesboro Tower site, which the county recently purchased, has a pre-existing concrete block shelter on the property there, which is generally a sound building, but it needs a bunch of work to make it usable. And so we put together an RFP, request for proposal, and reached out to local contractors. And this work includes basically gutting the inside of the building of all old electric, and there's some other old equipment in there, and there's some pipes that were set in the concrete. They need to be cut off and ground flush and the hole filled and so forth, as well as a new roof. It is a concrete block building and it is sound. The rafters are good, but it does need a new roof, and it needs the eaves repaired. There's a little bit of rot in the overhang, and then the outside of the building needs to be cleaned and painted, and the interior would be insulated, and then plywood walls installed over the insulation for the installation of electrical and various electronic items on the walls. So we called about half a dozen local contractors to see if they were interested, and most of them were too busy, quite frankly, to be interested in a project of this size. And it was, of course, posted locally as well as required. And we only received one proposal from Ryan Schroeder Construction, and the cost of that proposal was just over $17,000. And we reached out to him. That number was a little bit over our high estimate, and talked to him about it. And he broke it down about $9,000 in materials and about $8,000 in labor. And a little bit of the work, like the painting work, he's subbing out to someone else because the building needs to be power washed and so forth before it's painted on the outside. The other thing he noted, not a huge deal, but there's no electricity out there yet, so everything's got to be done by generator power, which, again, not a huge deal, but it certainly adds to the hassle factor. So, we've talked to him a little bit to see if there's any recommendations he would have to maybe save any cost, and he had a couple ideas, but the point that Jason and I have been discussing is that you're putting about $250,000 of radio equipment in that shelter, so we want to be sure that it's secure, clean, and we don't have to worry about the equipment. So his proposal also included a new steel insulated door, commercial grade door for the building as well. So it's a little bit over budget in this particular category, but we're quite frankly under budget in some other areas. So we'll open up for discussion here, but we'd like to move forward with this proposal. Do you see any need to rebid the RFP
See if we can snag some more interest in it.
Well, if that question, I
Does
guess I'll answer
Does
that.
anyone know, does anyone know the individual who submitted the bid and the work that he does? Do we have any kind of background or anything like that on the contractor?
Not that I'm aware of.
I thought he mentioned, I'm working for Keeble.
And maybe now that the other roofing company is not in business, Zach has dealt with him, I don't know, but not that I'm aware of. They may have emailed them work over there on the road because the snow is leaking.
I think you're gonna have a hard time finding anybody for these smaller jobs, because they're all pretty tied up and busy. I think if you're gonna go out and look at it, then you're gonna just push this project quite a ways back. But I do not know this individual neither.
Ray here, we could certainly ask for a couple references. We had not done that. I guess I had assumed that, you know, being the size of the community you have there, that somebody would know about this person or this company, but apparently not within this group. So we can ask for a couple references if you'd like.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Is that a major setback in the process, or?
I don't think so. I think, somebody I know that's gotten some grant type work done through, or on a fixed income, had some grant work done through Region 12. I think he did some work for them, so we might be able to reach out to Region 12 and find out. Certainly if he's done one project for them, he's probably done more than one.
Would Region 12 be a good enough reference? Would we have to get more, or would that be, would
Yeah.
Region 12 be a good enough reference to use? To me, I think it would be. I think it would be.
Yeah, I mean, they've had him on other projects, so obviously they have standards that they have to go by, so. We were just talking, Jason seems that he's done some work for Region 12. We're gonna reach out to them and see if there's any issues, and I think that would probably be a good enough for me. I mean, if he's meeting certain parameters there, then he'll be okay here too. I just don't know the person.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, you know.
Okay,
It's kind
So-
of unique work.
so do you wanna just pass this with the, thought that, Jason and Ray will reach out to Region 12 and get a good reference? If we get a good reference, we'll move forward. If we don't, we'll bring it back around the loop in a week or two.
That sounds good to me.
Okay. Okay, so I guess I'm looking for a motion. I would make that motion that we approve the RFP from, what was his name?
Ryan Schroeder.
Ryan Schroeder, the RFP we received in for the Lanesboro Tower site, pending a good recommendation from Region 12 on his construction.
For the $17,000.
17,285.
Yeah, 17,285.
Okay. I'll second that motion.
Right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Uh,
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
No opposed?
No opposed. Sorry.
Oh, I just want to make sure.
No.
It's hard to hear.
Yeah, it is.
14?
All right, Ray.
Okay, the next one, I'll actually let Jason handle, the memorandum of agreement, Iowa DOT.
Right, so, similar to a lease agreement, but with, no leased cost, The state of Iowa allows local entities, especially ones that are becoming part of the state system, to use their towers, other radio equipment. And so the two towers that I think the board is aware of in Carroll at the DOT property and the DOT property down by Templeton are two ISIC sites that, as part of our design, will have VHF fire and EMS paging sites that will go off of those locations. That'll all be part of the microwave network that's part of ISICs. And so, being that the VHF paging is not a part of ISICs like the microwave dishes we'll put on those towers, the state asked that we have this memorandum of agreement. So it's no cost to the county to put these items on the tower, and it's just basically the agreement just make sure that the county and the state play nice and there's something in place. This has been through the legal department with the Department of Transportation and has their stamp of approval, and we're presenting it here for our approval, and we can provide them a signed copy, and they will reciprocate with the final document that they sign.
Jason, are they using both the Carroll and Templeton's towers?
Correct. There'll be VHF fire that'll go off. So the pagers that we have now will be the same ones that we use. It'll be the same frequency. It'll just be new sites, and they'll all light up at the same time when a page goes out.
All right. I'll make a motion that we sign that memorandum of agreement.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the board's entering in an agreement, a memorandum of agreement with the Iowa DOT of Transportation, vote aye.
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 And opposed? Okay, I see. Okay, motion carries. User training proposal.
Okay, the last item on the radio list today is a proposal to Carroll County from On Target Training for ISIC's radio user training services. And training is required by ISICs for all entities that are going to use the radio system. And in the interest of full disclosure, I'm the owner of On Target Training, which was not the case a year ago when we were finalizing the plans and budget for this radio project. On Target was, it's a Minnesota company and always has been. It was formed by a fellow named Tom Justin about 10 years ago. And it's frankly one of the few independent training companies out there that specializes in this radio system training. And in this case, it's for the dispatchers, specifically on use of the new radio consoles, as well as we call it train the trainer training for the police, fire, EMS, schools, county roads, whoever's going to be using these radios. And what happened was I have been recommending On Target Training for my projects in Minnesota and Iowa for the last, 5 or 6 years. And so when we were preparing the budget for this project last year, Motorola had included, I think, some training in their proposal. However, the Motorola training is more expensive and less individualized. Not to, say anything negative about Motorola's training, but they send their staff out of Illinois to come out and show people how to push buttons and do different things. But the on-target folks, and I'm not one of the trainers, the on-target folks invest a fair amount of time ahead of time to develop a full understanding of not just the county's equipment, but how they're going to use it, and their fleet map and talk groups, and ISICS requirements for interoperability, et cetera, et cetera. And the fella, this Tom Justin, he passed away 1 year ago yesterday. And a few months after he passed away, a group of his folks came to me and asked if I'd be interested in taking them on as a training division of the consulting work I do. And I ended up working with Tom's family, and I ended up owning on-target training. So just so you all understand that, I guess I am the face of on-target training. So with that in mind, we put together a proposal specifically for Carroll County for dispatcher training, as well as these end-user train-the-trainer classes. And the dispatcher training would happen sooner. In fact, it's going to have to be done in 2 phases, because the initial training on the consoles will be for the new consoles, but with your old existing radio system. The new consoles are set up to connect to both the old system and the new system. And we need to get those consoles ready to go and installed in dispatch to replace the old consoles. But when the rest of the system is ready for ISICS, the trunk system, then we would have a second training class to bring them up to speed on all the features and requirements of the new system. So that's the dispatcher training. And then the end user training would take place down the road a few months when the system is closer to being ready to use. And this is where a group of select individuals would be taught not just on how they work and why they work the way they do, but also to help them be ready to train other people within their departments, which obviously is a big savings for the county, as opposed to having to train everybody in every department on how to use the system and what to do and what not to do. So the proposal from On Target has a total price of $16,400. Roughly a little over half of it's for the dispatch training, and the rest is for the end user training. And this is less than what we had budgeted for in the project from last year. So I'll stop and open it up for discussion.
If I could just add a few things. I was interested with Ray now owning On Target. I was interested to try to, I guess, price compare a little bit. Motorola won't really tell us necessarily what the line items in their proposal were worth that they pulled out individually, but I was able to go online and find Motorola offers like the dispatcher training in an online type situation. I believe it was $3,000 a person, something rather large like that. So it looks to me like Ray's proposal from On Target is pretty reasonable. I also had an occasion to attend an On Target training. I've attended actually a couple. One hosted by a local agency, one hosted by the state that when they hired On Target under the previous ownership, and they did a good job, and they did take the information and make it specific to Iowa and our system and things like that. So it was, both times was a good experience.
So On Target has provided services to other counties, I assume?
Did I hear the question? Has On Target provided other counties in Iowa?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, yes. In fact, about a year or two ago, when Iowa was starting to roll out the ISIC system and start to construct it, On Target at that time got hired by the state to conduct regional informational sessions to help people start understanding the ISIC system and what it was and what it wasn't. Since then, they've done Boone County, they've done Wright County, they're going to be doing Webster County, and
Dallas County.
I can't remember any of the other ones. Jason, do you remember any others?
They, Dallas County, they did the training in Dallas County, I believe. The trainer.
That was the first one, actually.
Yep. Yeah, and those that I've spoken with, that have On Target do work, and have worked with On Target have had good reports. No complaints, that I'm aware of.
With the current COVID situation, Ray, do you feel you can do this in a timely fashion, or are you gonna have to spread this out? Do you know how they do it?
Excellent question, and something that we obviously never really had to deal with before, but no news there. We're when doing the training, try and use larger rooms, smaller groups of people and so forth. And, you know, we've made the statement that we will abide by whatever requirements are in place, either at the county level or the state level for, you know, gathering together with groups of people for these types of purposes.
Okay, because it's tight quarters down there, down where we're at. It's tight, so, okay.
Is this something that needs to be approved today?
The dispatcher training needs to take place soon, because we need to, have the training, the initial training with the dispatchers right before we pulls over, and they're pretty much ready to cut over. We're probably looking at, training like the second week of August and cut over right after that, so, it is pushing right up on us to get this approved, yeah.
I would think if we do one piece, we just as well do them both to keep the consistency of the person involved and the process. 'Cause otherwise it gets the water's a little muddy from time to time. Who's got what done and who doesn't, so I think it'd behoove us just to go ahead and approve.
I agree with going ahead. I think their draft is an appearance of a conflict of interest, but we have looked at Motorola, and you know, it's the best deal in town. But,
Yeah, and when we started this process, there was no conflict of interest. That has just raised itself in the last few months, and I understand that. That's I'm glad someone takes over those businesses.
I think it makes sense to have the person do the training that's involved in the project to begin with.
Yep.
And train the
Yeah,
trainer.
a lot of consistency. Okay, so I would make a motion that we hire On Target. I guess, is that the term we want to do, or sign a contract with On Target for the training services for the proposed amount of $16,400 grand total between the both sessions.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of entering into agreement with On Target, say aye.
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 And opposed? Motion carries.
And thank you very much for that approval.
All right, any other questions?
Pretty much.
for Ray? Anything else for Ray or Jason?
When do you think that this is gonna be told turnkey?
Well, we've got a target date of sometime later this fall, I believe. Is that correct, Jason?
Correct. Yeah, I think it's somewhere October, November timeframe, something like that. In my mind, the big push right now is to try to get the sites on the air while we still have leaves on the trees and corn in the field, so that coverage testing can be done in September. That's the most advantageous to us, because that's the most, I guess, interference with the signal and things that take place. So that to me is the real deadline that I'd like to meet, and then
Okay.
having everything and configured after that. So the vehicle installations are going to probably start to take place this month. We're finalizing the programming for the radios this week probably, and then they'll start to program those up and start to schedule installations. The radios will be configured in a way that they can work on our current system, and then with a couple pushes of a button to select a new area of the radio, they'll be able to switch over at the time that we cut over. Those installations can take place ahead of time.
All righty. So if nothing else for Ray or Jason, thank you, Ray, for coming today.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you all very much. Thank you for the approvals. Have a good day.
Okay. The next thing up is a resolution of 2020-10, and it's authorizing the chair to sign and record at the affidavit of possession for the Lanesboro Tower site.
Also move.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of the resolution 2020-10. As a resolution, we have a roll call.
Rubble.
Yes.
Alsman. Yes. Miners.
Yes.
Shetler.
Yes.
Bach.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. I will need each of you to stop and sign this resolution. There's a place for everyone to sign, and it needs to be recorded. So sometime this week would be great if you could stop and get that signed. And Rich, stop us in the office to sign the affidavit.
I will sign that before I leave today.
It's got to be notarized.
I will do that today. All right, the next thing up is IT, GIS, Planning and Zoning Quarterly Report.
How's everyone doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Did you guys get a copy of this in your email? You should have. So it's been a pretty busy month for Carl and I. So far, we've moved the treasurer's scan computer back and set up a new desk in the vault. I don't know if you guys have been up there, but it looks pretty nice. They got partitions and stuff in. We're also working with AOS and Converge One. They're reconfiguring our network for us, or assisting us, rather, and giving us some direction that'll help some of the packet flow that goes over the network to make us a little bit more efficient on our data. We also had a few issues with the phones last month, so that was something we spent a lot of time on. I know Louie had to come in on Saturday and work a little bit on it. So for that reason, we did meet with council and work on a phone quote. So they are still going to get back to us on getting a new phone system quote.
I'd say also there, we're working with American Business Phones, who's going to give us a quote on it. And we talked to Western Isle Networks, but they haven't been into do it. So we're looking at 2 or 3 different options, as well as Verizon.
Yep. So also, we're working on, putting in a few new cameras in, so that is a pretty big project we're working on. So hopefully get some more coverage going. Let's see, we adapted the conservation, so now we have patch management on their computers. So what that means is all their computers will be up to date and should meet all requirements from the state. Carroll spent a lot of time, him and I, going through the HIPAA policies and some CGIS policy review, making some changes there. And then, as you all know, I was in the Shive Hattery meeting with you all, trying to address the camera system. We're concerned on how it's going to integrate with the new system. I don't know if you heard me talking about that. And then plus integrating the network as a whole. You guys have any questions about anything? Okay.
Guys, any questions?
No.
I have a question on the zoning, the Windstream Tower.
Yeah, there was one Windstream tower that went up east of Glidden, and it was set back from the road. We didn't have any issues like the one down by the old Curves there north of Coon Rapids. They withdrew that project, so that's the one that they planned on putting in the road ditch, and then we said, Dave and then Zach, we said no, not going in the road ditch. Negotiate with the landowner, and they withdrew the project after the one by Glidden was approved. So I don't know if they're going to use that or not. But right now that one's off the table. So other things in zoning, still need 2 Board of Adjustment members and 2 Zoning Commission members. And we had a Board of Adjustment meeting on July 2nd, and it makes it really critical then that since I only have 3 members, all 3 members have to be there, and all 3 members have to vote one way or another for something to be approved or disapproved. So it really makes it a little bit stressful, I guess, to only have 3 members and they have to do everything. So Zoning Commission is not as critical, because you can have a majority of the board there and you can vote 2 to 1, but the Board of Adjustment requires a majority vote of the board, not just who's there. So that's a little more difficult. And
Carl,
kind of,
remind me who those are that we got to replace.
need to replace Dave Wittrock and on the Board of Adjustment, and also Brian Hoffman. Brian moved to Breda. And then on the Zoning Commission, we have to replace Cam Jansen and Mimi Pudens.
Do we need to be gender balanced?
We need gender balance. They're gender balanced right now, but so we do need to replace Mimi with another woman if we can. And basically, it is the north and northeast section of the county that is losing representation.
North and east?
Yeah, because we got Keith Potoff over here. We got 2 people from Roselle. So the village is kind of represented. We've got a couple representatives down by Coon Rapids, 1 on each board. So we're fairly balanced there. North and northeast are probably where we need to.
And that's the zoning, or is that both?
Both of them.
Both boards?
Yeah, they're both kind of lost
We
on
just
that.
need somebody in that corner, would be a priority.
It would be nice. We like to have countywide representation, so
Yeah.
it would be a good balance.
Must live in the rural.
Must live in the rural and not in the 2-mile areas of Glidden or Carroll.
And not
Okay.
in what?
Pardon?
Gene,
Not in what?
Dean, go ahead, go first.
The 2 mile.
Not in the 2 mile area,
What,
Dean.
what are the requirements for this again?
Well, the requirements, they have to be outside of the 2 mile areas of Glidden or Carroll, and they have to live in the rural area. They can't live in the city.
They can't live in any incorporated city?
No, they have to live only in the areas that we have jurisdiction in.
Okay.
So about the only other thing in zoning, started to work with Carrie just after the 1st of July, but we had, as you can see there on the airport zoning permits, quite a few this last quarter, and I'm not sure what the deal is, but it seemed like we had like 7 applications, and of course they take time. We've got to do maps with them and go through the FAA and all that good stuff, so hopefully that'll kind of quiet down.
She's getting a big learning curve because that's where the most dangerous area is.
All right, well, we have those Carrie wasn't in on, so.
Oh.
But she did sit in on our Board of Adjustment meeting on last Thursday night, so.
Good.
She's getting some good observation. And any questions again about zoning?
Do you have a list of duties that the zoning could possibly cover and a list of the Board of Adjustment, what they would have to do, what's their requirements?
Sure.
Can you email that out to all of us?
Sure will.
Is that okay with you guys? I'm gonna have Carl email the duties of each one also, so if you do find a person, and Dean, I want to talk, I'll call you later, I've got a person in mind that's kind of up in the north and east, and I'll visit with you about that one, but we'll send what the requirements are, so when you talk to them, you can get it explained correctly.
So on GIS, Sarah's not here to report. She's up in a training with ESRI today and tomorrow, so I fill in for her. She's been doing a lot of webinars that have become available, processing splits. She's been doing a couple of subdivisions, so she's learning quite a bit about just the nuts and bolts of how everything's working, actually doing some rebuilding of subdivisions. For those of you that were around when we started GIS 20 years ago, instead of having Sidwell rebuild all of our lines and polygons and features, we took the old CAD drawings and had them fit them over our aerial photography, and then they did what's called rubber sheeting. It was a cheaper process, but it also has its own limits. So, for instance, right now she's rebuilding one of the subdivisions north of 18th Street because the lines just don't match up, and it's pretty obvious that it's got some problems, and she's going back in and rebuilding those lines and polygons so that they look better. We still make sure everybody gets a disclaimer that GIS is not survey quality. So people go and look and say, well, that line's running through my house. Yeah, we might be able to adjust it some. Once you start adjusting, you've got to keep going until you get to a stopping point. But making sure everybody knows that it's not survey quality. She's also developed a data collector with one of the ESRI tools. She went out a few weeks ago, collected all the bench sites at Swan Lake, walked around, took a picture, got a GPS point, imported that into maps. So she's learning how to use the tools. She's also going to be doing all the maps for airport zoning. Of course, since I was doing all that, I would generate the maps for zoning, and now Carrie doesn't have a license to do some of those detailed maps. So Sarah's learning how to do those maps, what's needed, and that's a map with the contours on the actual site of a proposed construction. and a map with the distance to the airport runway, and all that gets submitted to FAA. So she's doing those kind of maps too. And we just resubmitted a few weeks ago our GIS and ALI and IMSAC data to Geocom for analysis, and we are at over 99% on our GIS accuracy. We're between 98 and 99% on our alley to road center lines, and then the other piece that's yet to come into compliance, which everybody's at right now, is our alley to site structure points. And the alley is only landlines, so they're a little more difficult to get into the site structure points. Part of the problem is that our PSAT boundaries go outside of Carroll County on just about every side of us. And the way they're doing this Geocom for the next gen 911, it's just kind of up in the air who's actually maintaining those address points and street center lines outside of our county. Because the authoritative boundary that we have is county line. So technically, we can't go change the road center line, or we can't change an address point in another county when this all gets mashed up to Geocom for the statewide system. So there's still a lot of unknowns in that system. I think it'll still be a long time. And that's all I've got, unless you have some more questions.
Anything else for Carl on GIS?
All right.
All right, thanks, Carl.
Thank you, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
Okay, the next thing up is homestead military applications.
Well, it's the time of year when we get these lists from the assessor. These will be on the taxes that we're getting ready to complete. So, the board just needs to approve the 2020 homestead credits and military credits.
Okay, any discussion on the homestead and military applications and the credits?
Do you want to do these individually or what?
To do the homestead credits and disallowed together, and the military credits and disallowed together.
Okay, we'll do the homestead first, the credits and the disallowed. Any discussion on both those?
I looked through them, I didn't see anything. I'll make a motion that we approve them.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed? Motion carries. All right, the military application and allows and disallows.
Move to approve.
I didn't see anything there that was out of the ordinary. This is the disabled, correct? That's the report I have.
Should be the military.
Yep. Yep. Okay, got it. I didn't see anything there. I didn't circle a thing. Okay, so I need a motion and a second on that. Military application and disapprovals.
Move to approve. I'll make a motion to approve and disapprove.
All right,
And I'll second.
and we have a motion and a second. A call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed? All right. That was the veteran homestead. The business property tax. That's on this side. The allowed and disallowed. These are tax credits.
I'll make a motion
There
to
was nothing
approve
that,
them. Go ahead, Dean.
well, no, go ahead. I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion for approval of the business property tax credits and the disallowed. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And
Aye.
motion carries. You got everything you need there, don't you, Courtney?
I need the disabled veterans.
Nope.
And the disallowed disabled veterans.
Okay, the disabled veterans homestead tax credit applications. We have allowed and disallowed.
I read over these. I'll go ahead and make a motion to allow and disallow for the military 2020.
Okay,
I'll second that.
we have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. All right, next thing up is the North Raccoon River Watershed Plan discussion. And I believe Dean
Okay,
sent us an update this morning. Well,
Yeah,
Courtney did.
I sent you, so what is actually due, there's two dates that are, either today or on the 8th of July, comments are due from the public. This is the only, it's pretty hard for me to support whether or not we are in favor or not in favor of the plan if we don't submit some type of comment. So I drew up this comment, and I think it pretty much entails everything that in a brief statement, that that I think we really disapprove of in the plan. There are other things. If you read the plan, there are public comments in the plan itself of some history of political things that have happened in the watershed, i.e. the lawsuit is detailed in there as well, but I'm not going to make comment to that. I don't think that's appropriate. But so has everybody got a chance to read the document? The comment that I'm going to submit? Do you have any questions on it?
No, I agree with you here, Dean. I think you're right on point with it.
The process going forward is I did get a call from Clarence Sipker this last week, and we had a brief discussion, and there's going to be a conference call on the 9th. That would be on Thursday, and I'm not exactly sure what the conversation there is going to be about, to be quite honest with you. The vote for the plan will be held on the 24th, and at first it was going to be up in Storm Lake at the Kings Point, where they would have a large room where everyone could get in, but now recently I've heard that that's been canceled and it's going to be a Zoom meeting. So, I can probably go ahead and submit this and report on anything that comes up between now and then. And then we can decide whether or not we would want to approve the plan or not. The one thing that, and I guess I don't know if I had discussed this last week, is, how will this, if we do not approve the plan, how will that impact Carroll County going forward? And this plan impacts 18% of the whole population of Carroll County, and a small portion in northeast county, of which there are already plans have been drawn up for a large segment of that portion of the North Raccoon River. So I did get a call from one of our constituents up there in the around the who is very much in favor of the 48%. But after I talked to him and detailed what this could actually mean if we approve that 48%, this individual did kind of come around and was okay with what we're doing here. So, any comments?
Dean, I think your comments are well written. Would it be appropriate to suggest a percentage to replace 48.1?
I thought about that, Neil, and I mean, if it were to do that, it'd be around that 35%, I guess. But I don't know, and that's probably a conversation that we'll probably have on Thursday, if that comes up. I guess I don't want to pin us down to anything, to be quite honest with you. I don't want to. I would like to say that we have disapproved of the 48%, and hopefully they'll come up with one that we can approve. Is there a danger? Is there any kind of danger in coming up with a replacement? I guess that was my concern. Is it dangerous to come up with a replacement from a county supervisor, from a county? I mean, we know what we don't know, but I don't know if we really know what we do, to be quite honest with you. I guess I don't consider myself to be an expert in this. I just know that 48% is not a good place where we want to be.
We're just thinking of perhaps the power of suggestion, and I didn't have a amount because I'm not an expert on it either.
I didn't want to make it too detailed. I just wanted to get the point across, and how it's really not good for the 48% is really not a good place to be, and to approve that type of thing for future boards to have to deal with. I mean, if we agree to this, there could be some repercussions going down the road from those that live downstream from it. I guess that's the point I'm making. As far as the resolution, I've got that up here that we've signed. I guess I would have to agree a little bit with the DNR. I don't think anybody's going to be able to change that map. And so that being said, I don't know if our resolution will probably carry any water.
Do you see the 28Es being broken and that falling apart, Dean?
No, I don't think so. I guess there is one clause, and that was what I forwarded to you from the points that were brought up at the last meeting about some of the issues, and that had to do with taxation, about taxing the counties to provide a salary for the ongoing coordinator, of which I don't think a lot of the counties are in favor of that. But also there was a segment in there. I don't have that, but there, if you look at that, there is a part in there that does say a little bit about we could be inhibited to get any grants, federal grants for any if we did not approve the plan. So that's kind of what I'm going to find out hopefully on Thursday. We'll have that discussion. I'm not in favor of this, but I'm also not in favor of eliminating any eligibility for funding in the future either. So it does make it difficult, and when we're talking about this, I think a lot about the Middle and South Raccoon and what can be done there. I'm sure that if we resurrect that watershed management authority, we're going to run into the same issues that we're having right here. And because we'll have to build a plan, and it may include a lot of the things that we're seeing here. And so there can be watershed development. A county and soil and water can develop watershed plans on HUC 12, and that's basically what the Iowa Soybean Association funded for the Elk Run watershed project. And so I think there's like $250,000 went into that plan. Now, the what's called the Bull Lake Inlet, which starts up in east and south of Breda and flows north to the Black Hawk Lake, that watershed, which came out of Sac County, funded that plan. And so, we have, you can kind of go it yourself if you want to, too. There's no, and that kind of played into my thoughts a little bit about this as well. We already have two plans that encompass probably at least 60% of our area in the Raccoon River, North Raccoon River watershed. So, we already have some existing plans, and the plans for the rest of it could possibly be completed with the help of maybe Calhoun County, because that's the only part of Carroll County between that little square up there that goes into I think it's Purgatory Creek, is the only one that really doesn't have a plan existing today. So.
Yeah, I know that the Soybean Association is still actively involved. I've received a couple letters concerning watershed issues on the farms. So I know they're still active. They're trying to make a difference. This concerns me a little bit. The taxation for, I won't think I would be for that. And I suspected that when we started this, that the money would run out eventually for the administration side before we really got, and then there were just very few projects that were done, just enough to get the funds from the feds, and now those funds are drying up. So.
Correct. And you have to remember, I mean, this is just a comment. You know, if you agree with the comment, you know, I can go ahead and submit it, and I don't think Carroll County is going to be the only county that'll be submitting a comment similar to this.
Okay.
Well, Dean, I think your comment here on the percentages and stuff is spot on. I tend to agree with you. I don't know that, I think you've made it simple here. You know, I think we need to forward this on and to put our own number in there. Why do we want to put ourselves in that position to be contradicted? You know, we're not, like everybody said, we're not experts. Let's let them come up with a compromise or whatever.
Well, I can go ahead and submit it if basically a consensus of the board agrees with that. So, and then I guess we'll see what happens on Monday. I'll go ahead and report on Monday what happens this Thursday, and we'll go forward. I'm sure that after the public comments are submitted, there are probably going to be some adjustments, hopefully, to the plan. And when that happens, I guess we'll see. Now, you know, the one thing I will see, and I don't know if I made this comment, that the TMDL nutrient reduction number, the 48.1%, is actually mandated by the EPA. And so it's a number that is always at a portion of the river that is subject to public consumption. So the Des Moines River, or the North Raccoon River, or I would say, let's see what the Raccoon River in Des Moines falls into that. So there has to be a number for a TMDL target. So and that's why you see the other two with the Des Moines River at Des Moines at 34.4, and the Cedar River at Cedar Rapids at 35. So it's something that the EPA actually requires that number exists. But it's arbitrary what that number is, and I think they just need to come up with a better number. So I'll go forward with the submitting this then. Is that what the board wants?
Yep.
All right.
I would say go forward.
Okay. All right.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Dean.
I'll let you know what happens Monday on Thursday then.
Okay, very good. All right, the next item up is manure management. The first one I have is Andover Family Farm, Section 32 of Viola Township. That's in Audubon County. That was added acres and manure analysis. Dave Robinson, Section 35 of Eden, was no change. Hawker Farms 2, LLC, Section 15 of Wheatland. That will be crop rotation. P1271 Finisher, Section 30 of Newton, was no change. Falcon Finisher, Section 36 of Arcadia. That's a 4-year plan, and it'll be crop rotation. Jason and Nathan Nealon, Section 32 of Neast. That will be added acres to that plan. Shoemaker and Son Incorporated, number 1, Section 16 of Pleasant Valley. That is a new 4-year plan. And the Shoemaker and Sons Incorporated, number 2, Section 16 of Pleasant Valley. That is also part of a 4-year plan. Okay, community reports.
I'll go ahead and go. Last week, since we met on Wednesday, I didn't have any, we were gonna have a daycare meeting, but nothing new came up, so we went ahead and canceled that one. This week, we are going to have a daycare meeting today at noon, and then Region 12 Policy Council Thursday night, and Emergency Coalition on Friday.
All right.
I will go next. Last week I didn't have anything after the board meeting. This week I will do the radio and the paper. And then on Thursday, there are new opportunity, TADC is having a housing meeting that I'm planning on attending. And then I think there's a coalition meeting on Friday. That's my week.
I can go next. I basically worked on the river watershed plan and going forward there. This week I have a Board of Health meeting on Thursday at noon, and then have the watershed meeting at 1 o'clock, and the Emergency Coalition meeting on Friday.
Neil Black here. Basically, the only thing I had this meeting last week is a communication from Louis with the VA, Louis Early. He is going to check with his board members as far as changing everything, and he agrees that it is not subject to HIPAA. On Thursday night, I have a policy council meeting with Region 12. I'm done.
Okay, that's it? All right, I had some phone calls with Zach Thursday and Friday after the meetings we had on Wednesday. This week, coming in front of me is tomorrow I'm going to be in Manning at the hospital. We're going to have some conversation about probably the ambulance, and I'm also touring their hospital. I've never been in it. So,
I'll be attending that as well, sorry.
Stephanie will be attending also. So, and then I also have Region 12 on Thursday, starting at 5:30. We have the Policy Council and Development Group first, and then we have the meeting later with Neil and Stephanie will be in it later. I'm going to come in and do some work this week on another project we have going in front of us, but Courtney and I will be doing some reviews of past meetings. Other than that, I have nothing else in front of me this week. Courtney, do you have anything you'd like to add? Nope. Okay, Courtney has nothing. With that, I would look for a motion for adjournment.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Neil seconds. All those in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.